just labeling, oh, this player can go to the national team because his jump height is like 50 centimeters and he's age 15, it's great result, he's great athlete. Maybe at that moment of time, he or she is great, but long term, that jump height does not mean anything. To summarize, do not close the door too early. You can succeed if you just continue working on the basics. And over the time, be patient and consistent. If you're not improving, it's on you. If your body doesn't look like you wish, it's on you. If you're not getting minutes, it's on you. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Basketball Body and Mind. Today I'm not joined by anyone, and this is going to be solo episode, the second solo episode. And every 10th episodes I'm going to review what we have talked previously with the guests, and also I'm going to share what I have been studying and what I have been reading. So today we're going to have three topics. Topic number one that we are going to cover is going to be the recap of everything what we have talked, what were the common themes that the guests were mentioning or the subjects that we were talking about. Secondly, I am going to talk about the doctoral thesis that has been written in 2023, and it is about why you should not worry if you have not picked into the national team, at the youth national team, and why that does not really matter in your long-term success. And lastly, I'm going to talk about the book that it's pretty new. It's written by Drew Hanlon, and the book is this one. And if you're watching, and it's a great book. I believe young players should read that and pay attention to what he is saying, because he has raised multiple stars. So let's start. Let's start with the very first thing, and it's going to be, as I said, the recap of all the episodes. So I will mention 5 things that I believe were coming most often while talking to the guests. So first of one is professionalism is a mindset. Multiple guests over the episodes were talking how important it is how players carry themselves off the court. Are you showing up on time? How do you communicate to the coach? How do you communicate to the coaching staff? How do you communicate to your teammates, to the referees? Then how do you take care of your body? Are you paying attention to that, or you just think that recovery will just going to happen? Then also being mentally present. What does it mean? When you are on the basketball court, are you physically, you are on the court, but are you mentally on the court? As we all know the stories of Kobe Bryant, he used to say that, okay, Kobe Bryant is outside of the court, but when I step on the court, it's like Mamba mentality, that no matter what happens to Kobe Bryant, that cannot affect the basketball performance on the court. He was saying that maybe people were coming, spending hundreds of dollars, and they were coming like thousands of miles, and they come to see me playing. How can I not give my best performance? Another thing that about the professionalism, that professionalism separates more you as a player more than a talent. Talent will be spotted very, let's say, early in the process. Early, I'm saying either early age-wise, or early that as soon as you come to the training session, talented players will be spotted. However, what separates from those who make it to the next leagues, next levels, are the professionalism more than the talent. And professionalism just about the things that we have been talking previously, like how do you communicate, how do you are you showing up on time, how do you take care of your body, are you mentally present, all of these things. So professionalism is a mindset. It's not you have it or you don't. It's a mindset. Second thing that also came quite often was long-term development is much more important than quick success. Do not rush the process. You have years to develop. However, it seems like we want to do everything in a week or in a month. But it's not jumping from one level to another and really do not mastering the basics. Everyone was talking about the basics. In terms of long-term development, you don't want to kind of peak at age 13 or 14, doing the craziest exercises at age 15. Your peak approximately in basketball will be around age 26 to 28, most likely. So if you are 18 and you are worried that you are still not professional or you are still not great basketball player, this is not quick success that we are looking for. What you need to focus on is, maybe it's boring, but consistency, patience, mastering the basics before going to those Instagram flashy exercises and showing yourself to like creating highlights and showing yourself to the world. No. Focus on that. Okay, I cannot mention the next thing because it will be mentioned later, but focus on these consistent little actions. Be patient. Be patient. The third thing that was also coming often was the, let's call it mental toughness. Everyone will have, let's call it negative things in your journey. Adversities, injuries, rejection from the coach, from your team, from your maybe parents do not support you as much as you would like. Maybe friends will see that you are not spending so much time with them and you are choosing working out rather than spending time with them. It might be difficult to lose a friend or two or a group of friends. But if your goals are super important, you have to stay focused on your goal. I'm not saying give up everything and just focus on being professional. It might work actually for some, as Kobe Bryant was saying again. Kobe Bryant was saying in his book that greatness is not for everyone. Maybe that's what he meant. I don't know. But making those choices that you will choose something over something, like training over partying or sleep over scrolling, let's say junk food, you will choose healthy food over junk food, it will have consequences, either positive or negative consequences. But you will be facing adversities, all of these things. But players who succeed long term are usually not physically strong, but mentally, let's call it resilient. They are resilient. They know that no one and nothing can stop them. Of course, it might slow them down, but it will not stop. As we were talking with Nico, he was saying like loneliness in USA. Nico finished in last episode. He was sharing his story how he finished his four-year college journey, and now he came back to Europe and signed his first contract in Czech Republic. And he was saying loneliness and being away, it was difficult. But I said, was quitting an option? And he's like, no, never. I knew that I invested so much and I want to do this, so it was never an option. He broke his hand. He partly torn his lateral knee ligaments during the season, the most important season of his college journey, because it was year 4 for him. But he said, okay, I still had another leg, I still had upper body, I still could do core, hands, I could do basically everything, except I couldn't do that one leg. So, or when he broke his right hand, he said, I got really good with my left. So no matter what adversity you are going through, there is definitely light at the end of the tunnel, and quitting is not an option. And in the article that I'm going to share later, authors, it was not that thesis, but they were citing that article. They were saying that I believe 8 out of 10 Olympians, 8 out of 10, so 80% of Olympians were saying that having those difficulties in their career, whether not picking, that they were not taken to the national team, or they had any other adversities, it was a motivation for them to work harder. And they believe that because of that adversity, they became Olympic champions. So you see, at the moment, maybe it's not possible to see the positive thing in the injury or in the rejection or in the adversity that you're facing. But probably later, year 2, 5, 10, you will be looking back and you will say, you know what? I'm grateful. I'm grateful that I have gone through that adversity. It made me much stronger. Okay, let's go to number 4. It's skill development, or any type of training must be with intention. What does it mean? That the guests were mentioning that it's not just endlessly doing reps of shooting, of dribbling, or just endlessly lifting weights. You have to train with a purpose. Of course, sometimes maybe you just need to go out and shoot hundreds of shots. It can be that way. But you need to train with a purpose. If you do not have the end goal in mind, if you cannot give the reason why you are doing certain exercise or why you're choosing this intensity, if you're just doing it blindly, we do not know how much of that will carry to your performance. Maybe the transfer will be very low. So what's the point of doing things that those things do not transfer for you to improving your performance? So if we're talking about shooting, ball handling, decision making, lifting weights, it's very important. It has to have a purpose. Maybe sometimes you want to lift fast and light. Maybe sometimes you want to lift heavy and slow. Maybe sometimes you want to just shoot many 3-pointers. But maybe instead of shooting 500, you need to shoot 50. As a drill, like Steph Curry at least used to do, maybe still does, that he's running from one end of the floor to another and making 3-pointers from corner to corner. He has to make 10, I believe, in a row. If you miss, you repeat. That's only, maybe it will take him 5 trials. So that's 50 shots. And it will not be 50, it will be less than 50. But I believe that would be hard workout. So train with purpose. If you do not know anyone to talk about training with purpose, text me a message. Let's find the purpose for you, and let's see what we can make out of it. And lastly, that I was surprised that many coaches mentioned that, was that communication with coaches is the key. I have had from some of my clients that we work online, they have had, let's say, negative interactions with the coaches that ended up them quitting from team. I'm not saying it's their fault. I'm not saying it's coach's fault, even though I do have my opinion. But as you will see in part 3, I think coach needs to take responsibility and players need to take responsibility too for everything what is happening. So I will talk more about that in part 3 when we'll be talking about the book. But skill coaches and like tactical coaches, like head coaches, everyone was talking that you need to talk to the coach. You need to ask questions. What coach wants from you. That you need to understand the roles or the role that you have on the court and seek feedback. Coaches are much more likely will help you if you put more effort, or more, let's say effort, if you put more effort to the development, that you do not just blindly do, but you also seek for feedback. Hey coach, what can I do to improve this? Hey coach, is there anything I can do to get more minutes? Or hey coach, what do you think are my weakest points? Coaches will tell you whether it's true or not, whether it's coach's opinion, true opinion, or just what has happened in last training session. I cannot say. Maybe the coach will say something that you really do not agree with. But then I would ask, is it because coach is right I am mad, or I am mad because I know that I'm one of the best in that area, that coach said. So lack of communication with the coach can lead you to be confused why I'm not getting minutes and he or she is getting minutes. You can be frustrated. And as I said, that lack of communication could lead to quitting the team. So these, I believe, were most often repeated things that we have been talking. So what does it mean for you? I would say these would be advices. Be honest with yourself. What are you doing daily to improve? Daily for your basketball, daily for your mind, daily for your body. It's super important. Small, consistent actions are much more important than going super hard for 1 week. Then be a great teammate. Every coach wants to see character on a team, work ethics, behave well on the bench, in the locker room, on the court, everywhere. Be great teammate. Third is also respect recovery. So do not think that recovery will just happen. Pay attention to that. What you're eating. If you need help with recovery, let me know. There is a course that I have created, 4 hours of me explaining about recovery. So that will be one thing that I would suggest you to look into. 4 would be that prepare for changing the leagues. Next, what I want to talk about is who makes to the next level based on science. More specifically, how do we estimate or how do we measure potential in young athletes? So it intrigued me as last in last 10th episode, so in last episode that I did, the solo episode that I did, I was talking about one article that I read, and it was about this topic. So then author was kind enough and he shared with me PhD thesis written by, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, Audrey DeFernand, and the title of the PhD thesis was Estimation of Potential Among Young Athletes. And it was written at the end of 2023. And it made me think, while I was reading, I took many notes. It made me think a lot about how we, coaches, parents, or even players who are listening right now, predict who is going to make it in the long run, who is going to be professional athlete. And I broke it down into 5 things. Again, 5 things. At the end, I'll give just 3 to summarize, but right now, about 5 things from that thesis. So number 1 is potential is not just talent. If you are super talented, you're dominating at age 13, 14, 16, that does not mean anything. Okay, it means a little bit, like 10%, 10 to 30%. Because I remember they were saying up to no more than 30% from the youth Olympic Games went to the actual Olympic Games. So let's say 10 to 30%. Of course, we're not allowed to give percentages, but just for you to understand how little importance is that. So if you're dominating at that age, it does not mean anything. So example that I'm sharing is one Spanish player. He has never been on the national team. He played 4th division in Spain. At any youth level, he was not dominating. He was playing 4th division of Spain, not that many minutes. He was mentioned actually on 3rd episode by Gonzalo. And at only age 22, he managed to reach national team of age 22. So just because you are behind today doesn't mean that you can't catch up, that you can't reach the level you want, or even surpass those early bloomers. That someone is dominating at age 16 and you are so much behind. Listen, it does not mean anything. The thesis emphasizes that potential, meaning how much possibilities, how much percentages you have inside to succeed, is multidimensional. What it means that it's only one thing. When somebody is young, it's only one thing what we're testing, usually. It's physical skills. Okay, a little bit of anthropometrics, like your height, your wingspan, these things. But first of all, everyone looks at the physical tools, like strength, speed, coordination, conditioning, all of these things. However, as Paulus in episode, I don't remember, let's say 18 or 17, Paulus Malashauskas was saying that he was born in January. That's why, to his opinion, he was ahead. And it is true, because if you are age 15 and you're born in January, you might be training against someone who is age 14, same age, but born in December. So between you is 1 year difference, but you're playing in the same league. So then another thing that is very important for that potential is mental traits that it's impossible to measure, like your motivation, your adaptability. I cannot say impossible. Let's say it's very hard, that rarely people measure it. It's your motivation. How well do you deal with adversities, as we were talking previously? What is your emotional control? What is the story you tell to yourself when you are facing the adversity? Like, they cannot measure how bad do you want to succeed. And it's super important. And another thing that also, as I said, like it's multidimensional. Another thing that is very important is like discipline, effort, and how, like it's similar, but how do you react to all of these things? It can be also injuries. Some people, they might have, two people might have the same injury, but one will quit and another just will be significantly stronger. So it's not possible to measure these things. However, it's possible to measure speed, strength, conditioning. That's why many estimations of, or like calculations of potential are based on that. And if you are older, even though you are same age as your peer, but you were born in the first 3 months, like January, February, March, most likely you will have more potential just because of that. However, let's come back to the beginning. It does not mean anything. So if you're a young player and listening, just being talented is not enough. Stop comparing yourself to others and focus on little things. Focus on progression, because that is the most important thing, how much you progress over time. And that leads us to thing number 2 from the thesis, is that there is no single test that will tell you everything, as I said. And I didn't mention everything, like physical tool, mental traits, all the factors, like also like environment that you are growing up will have a big influence on your success rate. But there is no one test that can predict. And if somebody says, okay, we have to do this test in order to know who will have the most potential, no, it's impossible. However, we are making those overestimations on sprint times or how high you can jump. But we do not take into account the subjective evaluations, like how do you respond to the feedback, or how do you carry yourself in the practice. All of these things are super important. In my opinion, it is, and I'm strength coach, so you have to understand how sad I am to say this, but that's subjective, like how you are mentally, like your psychology, how do you react to adversities. All of these things are more important than your sprint times or your jump height. So just labeling, oh, this player can go to the national team because his jump height is like 50 centimeters and he's age 15, it's great result, he is great athlete. Maybe at that moment of time, he or she is great, but long term, that jump height does not mean anything. Third thing, what Thesis was saying about, I hope you're still can keep up with everything what I'm saying and you're learning things. But the third thing is that you have to be careful with early specialization and early selection for those potential, let's say, athletes, potential. And what it means is that the thesis that I read warns about that is dangerous or it's not recommended, the early selection. That people or athletes are chosen to the national teams only based on their current abilities in terms of strength and conditioning, in terms of basketball, but not for the potential for long-term success. So those who are maturing early, or those who are born earlier in the year, will be defined as more talented. However, also like the someone who is taller or who is stronger, more coordinated at that, let's say age 13, 14, they will be chosen to the national team. But if you are not taken to the national team, but you stick to the work ethics, as I was talking previously, to that, you stick to that professionalism. What will happen is, if you're listening, so just try to imagine and those who are watching, you can just watch right now how I will move my hands. So imagine that someone is way ahead of you because of their quote unquote talent, way ahead of you, like a lot. But they don't have to work to be significantly higher than you. But you know that, okay, Stan told me that I have to keep on working and it's possible for me to be greater than them. And let's say you are age 15, okay, whatever, you can pick 17. How old are you? So that is the age. But the someone who is above, they usually will not have such a great work ethics because everyone is worse than them. Imagine you are training with better player than you are. Most likely you will need to step up your game. So you will slowly will be building yourself up with the work ethic, and the other person who is very talented, maybe they do not work as hard because they're still the best player, and they will be progressing not so fast. So they will be progressing not so fast, but you will be making faster and faster progress. Maybe within 3 years you will be the same level player. However, you will have momentum. You will be already working hard for those 3, 5 years, and you will be at the same level, and you will be surprised how easy will be to continue working and improving and seeing maybe somebody else who is higher than you, and you are now comparing yourself to another player. But that person who was talented, very talented, if he or she does not have that mental resilience and acceptance that you really need to work hard, so then you will surpass them, and then you will be a lot ahead of that player just because you had momentum. You have been working for years so hard that just continue with that for you will be just another day. And for the person who was talented, it will be much more difficult, because then maybe you guys are 20 years old, and working then you need to be psychologically stronger to continue working. Okay, but I think you understand my point. So to summarize, do not close the door too early. You can succeed if you just continue working on the basics. And over the time, be patient and consistent. The fourth thing is, as I was talking now at the end, is the mental side matters a lot. And in the thesis, they even, for the long-term success, matters a lot. And in the thesis or research, they were saying that traits like grit, coachability, intrinsic motivation, adaptability are huge predictors for future success. And we're not talking about the jump height. We're not talking about the sprint time. We are not talking about the 3-pointers, how many you can make. What is the percentage of 3-pointers? Of course, it's important, but those things like grit, coachability, intrinsic motivation, adaptability, super important. Super important. Like, sometimes the most talented player, they don't last because of that, because of lacking those things. But they have the jump height, they have the sprint, they have the 3-pointers, but it's not enough. It's not enough. So again, if you're a young player, work on your mindset. That's why this podcast is called Basketball, Body, and Mind. Just work on those 3 things every single day. If you do not know what to do, let me know. Text me, email me, call me. I'll do what I can to help you. But work on your mindset as much as you work on your body, or as much as you work on your basketball. And last thing from the research is that coaching and environment is also very, very important. How coach sets up practices, how feedback is given to the players, how players are supported when things are not going well, or when players are struggling. So all of these things, they actually make difference, and it's important difference. So this thing you cannot, let's say, control. It's not on you how coach sets up the practices. It's not on you how coach is giving you a feedback. It's not on you how or whether coach supports you or not during the struggles. But what is on you is how you react to those things. The emotional control. Talking to the coach, even though you know coach is not right. Probably you should say, yes, coach. Okay, coach. I know it might be hard to say those words, but your goal is much more important or much more significant than just having a bad conversation with the coach, because he or she is the one who is going to control your minutes. So you cannot control those things, but of course it influences, but you can control yourself. So okay, so I could talk to the coaches in this circumstance, but I will not, because I believe more basketball players are listening than coaches. So just pay attention. If there's something you dislike, probably it wouldn't be smart to tell that to the coach. Of course, it depends on the coach. Maybe coach is young and willing to listen and willing to learn, but you have to be careful with that. I would rather focus on myself and do what coach is asking, as long as you're not hurting yourself, as long as you can play basketball and keep improving. Just keep on going. Keep on going. And for those who are lucky enough to be in great environment and having great coaching staff around, you guys talk to the coaches, ask questions, ask for feedback. Just keep on going. You are having advantage in that circumstance. Okay, so this is from the thesis. So I think you understand that you have lots of potential, and it's up to you. Yes, it is up to you whether you will succeed or not. Mostly up to you. There are certain things that you cannot control, but most of the things you can control. Most of the things, in order to be successful, in order to be professional, in order to make it to the next level, most of the things you can control. And it's up to you. And that leads us to the very last thing. Is one of the books that I read over this time is, as I said, is Stop BSing Yourself. And the book is written, I believe, most of you, if not all, but most of you know who Drew Hanlon is. So he has worked, like a foreword has been written by Jason Tatum and Joel Embiid. He has worked with lots of NBA players, with many NBA superstars. Book is written very simply. Book is, as it says the name, like Stop BSing Yourself. So my 5 things from that book are: number 1, own your excuses. I have written about excuses like several years ago. During COVID, I said that like excuses are one of the worst things you can do. You are robbing yourself with excuses. And according to the book, that most people are stuck, or let's say it this way, most basketball players are stuck because they're lying to themselves. They might be blaming coaches, they might be blaming teammates, they might be saying that lack of minutes is not their fault, it's someone else's fault. But instead of doing that, you need to own your flaws. Another book, I didn't read it in last, I read it a long time ago, but it's Jocko Willink, and the name is Extreme Ownership. So, very short story, and I come back to this book, to Stop BSing Yourself, but you have to take accountability, or you have to take accountability for everything what happens to you. And the crazy example would be that let's say, asteroid fell or hit Earth, and you have to take responsibility for that. And some people will think, how can I take responsibility for that? And then you think, is there possibly anything that you could have done to prevent that? And the answer is actually yes. You could have invested in or donated money to someone who is researching the space, and they're looking for things that they can hit the Earth. You could have done that, but you didn't. So the idea behind is that you cannot blame anyone else. You are responsible at certain degree, but you are responsible for everything that happens to you. So this is what he meant. If you're not improving, now I'm coming back to the book by Drew Hanlon. If you're not improving, it's on you. If your body doesn't look like you wish, it's on you. If you're not getting minutes, it's on you. All these things are on you. And if you think they are not, you just don't know the things, how to take responsibility, or not the thing, but let's say how to take responsibility, what tasks, what things you need to do in order to maximize your chances. So ask yourself, are you doing those things consistently? Maybe you did it just once. Maybe you did it just for a week. Maybe you are just thinking of doing that, and maybe that's the reason why you have your excuses and you're not getting those minutes. Second thing from the book is you need to track everything. You need to, in the episode number 2, we're talking about the gamification. But the Hanlon is saying that if you're not measuring, you're guessing. So you need to record how many shots you're taking, what drills you are doing. Because if you do not, let's say you're traveling from Lithuania to Latvia, okay? Because I'm from Lithuania, so, or whatever. So it's neighboring countries, but you can pick any countries you want. But how do you know whether you are moving towards Latvia or no? Imagine that you're just sitting in the car, you don't know which direction to go, or you know approximately which direction to go, but you're not measuring how you are driving. You're not looking into maps, you're not looking into Waze. You really don't know, because the road will be turning left and right and backwards, forward, all of these directions, but eventually you are measuring where you're going, so you are moving forward. So same with the drills, same with the exercises that you do. If you're not measuring, you're guessing. Because maybe you will do 2,000 shots in a month when 2,000 shots in a week is expected from you. And you will say, how can I not shoot three-pointers so well? Duh, because you're shooting only 2,000 a month. So that maybe that's the reason. So this is just example. Okay, then number 3 is confidence comes from preparation. And one side effect of weight room, of building muscles, is the confidence that you are getting. And if you are confident, most likely you will make more shots because you will believe that you are going to make it. So this is just kind of side effect from the lifting weights. So guys, you have to be confident in the games. However, what he is mentioning, that most of the times also you don't need to be cocky. And one story that he shares is with Jason Tatum, that it was championship game, second, not the last year, but year before his last year of high school. And championship game, his mother wanted that Jason would be nice person, good player, but also nice person. And Drew was saying, actually, if you want to succeed, you have to be a little bit cocky. I mean, you have to be confident, but also you have to be selfish. So they lost that game. And after the game, Jason's mother came to the Drew, and she said, you know what? I want him to succeed. If he needs to be more selfish, let it be. And what happened is the next year they went again to the finals and they won. And he scored the most points. He was selfish, but that led to the winning. So he did not just be selfish and score 30 points and won the championship. He was preparing all year. So you need to do that also. You cannot fake preparation. As Chris Paul was saying, reps removes doubts. So same to you. You cannot fake, as I said, preparation, but you can do the reps. You can train yourself. And this will build your confidence. And number 4 is that high standards are very, very important. You need to stop comparing yourself to the average players. But you need to start comparing yourself to those who want to be professionals or who are professionals. What did they do in the past to become professional? Not what they are doing right now when they are professional, but what did they do before? And it's very important to have those high standards and hold yourself accountable to those high standards without anyone being around. If you need a coach always around you to take more of you, it's good if you have that opportunity to always have someone around you to coach you. That's good. Do it if it's possible, of course. However, if there is no coach around you, are you going to use that as excuse to not to succeed? Because your excuse will be, I could have been professional, but there was not coach around. I wasn't pushing hard myself. I know that if coach was around, I would be a professional basketball player. But now, since I was alone, it didn't happen. No, you have to be the biggest critic of yourself, the biggest motivator of yourself. As we were talking with the research previously, intrinsic motivation. You have to have it inside. You must have it inside. If coach wants more for you to succeed than you yourself, you're not going to succeed. It's impossible. So last thing that I really liked from his book was that going 90% is much harder than going 100%. And what it means is when you are fully when you are all in, it's much more easier to make decisions. You don't negotiate with yourself. For example, you have a opportunity to go somewhere or to eat something or to do something. The question that you ask, will that, let's call it X, will lead me forward towards my goal? Yes or no? If the answer is yes, you do it. If the answer is no, apologize, then you don't. It's super easy. You don't negotiate with yourself. You just better do it or you don't. So whichever action we're going to, or whichever task, food, reps, everything, will that get you closer? Yes, do it. So it's much more easier to decide. So it's been long solo episode. So I just want you to leave, as always. We had 3 different parts, so 3 lessons from each part, just to recap everything very quickly. So part 1, what we were talking, summary from the episode 11 to 19 is you have to be honest with yourself. Are you really doing everything what you can? Second is you need to understand your role, talk to the coaches, and play your strength on basketball court and work on your weaknesses in the training sessions. And lastly from that would be professionalism is not only about training hard, is how you show up, how you carry yourself daily. Part 2, 3 things for like kind of biggest key takeaways is that the best indicators of long-term success are self-regulation. How well do you manage effort? How hard you can push yourself? How focused you are during the training sessions and the games, and how well do you recover? Second thing is growth mindset. Willingness to face challenges and overcome, adapt to them is highly predictor of success. And lastly of this part 2 from the research is not the current results, but the growth over time is what leads to success. And from the Drew Hanlon's book, Stop BSing Yourself, is track your work and be accountable. How many shots you're making, how many training sessions you do, how many training sessions you did not do. That is also important. Then you need to, as he says, cut the fluff. You need to do important things and not things that you want to do. Maybe you want to eat ice cream, but maybe you need to shoot 3-pointers. Yes. So, and lastly from this book, as the name says, as I started, you have to be honest, brutally honest to yourself. Good question. Would you draft yourself based on how well you are prepared to perform? Would you draft yourself, if your goal is NBA, would you draft yourself into NBA? Would you draft yourself into EuroLeague game? Would you draft yourself into your city's team? Which level are you right now? Be brutally honest to yourself. Okay? So, yes, thank you. Thank you very much for listening to this longer episode of me talking. I hope you learned something. If you did, don't forget to subscribe and share this episode maybe with your friend who might need some extra motivation or some ideas. That would be the best way to support us. As I was saying previously, if you have any questions anytime, shoot me a message. I answer every message, every email. So shoot me a message. If I can help you, I will. But for now, keep training basketball, body, and mind.